Bill, thank you, first of all, for being here with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Let's start at the very beginning. Tell me, you just said you turned 82 on...
January 9th.
January 9th,
Yep.
Okay. So that means you were born in 1943.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's start there.
1943, Shamley, Georgia. So I'm really a rebel, you know. And all my friends tell me I'm a galvanized Yankee, so I guess that's okay too. But I was born in Georgia, and then my dad, he met my mother while he was in the service. And we stayed down there until, I don't remember exactly what age we were, but moved to Wilmer. And I think I was in the second grade.
Oh.
So I went to grade school, high school in Wilmer. Got out of the high school, which I did not like school at all. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And it was probably my own fault. I never studied. My parents never made me study. I was an average C student, which is what it is, you know.
It is what it is. I can relate.
I got out of school, and I didn't really know what I would do, so I decided I'm joining the Army. I says, that'll be the thing for me, you know.
Right.
So I joined the Army, and I found out that I really wasn't so tough after all. There was a lot of people in there that were tougher than me, mostly big sergeants, you know. So I went to training at Fort Hood, Texas. Got out of there. I went to Fort Benning for advanced training. And from there, I went to Korea. I served 2 years. I was in what they call the ASA, Army Security Agency, which is what we did is we monitored North Korea. And we had sites, we were the furthest most troops. We had sites that actually monitored what North Korea was doing, which at that time that was all top secret stuff. Now I can tell everybody what we did. But, And there was other things we did also. But I stayed over there 2 years. I come back to the States, I got out of the Army. I worked for my dad for about a week, and I figured that's enough of this. I'm going back in the Army. So I went back in the Army.
Really? You went back? Okay.
Went back in the Army, and I got orders to go back to Korea. ASA wanted me back there right away.
ASA is?
Army Security Agency.
Gotcha.
Okay. And first time I went over there, I went over by ship, and I came back by ship. No fun at all. So here we are, I'm in Oakland, California, get all registered and everything. I talked to the representative from ASA, they say they want you over there right away, and you'll fly. I said, oh man, got my Class A uniforms on and all that, and the roster comes out to get on the ship, and here's my name. I said, no, I'm supposed to fly. The guy says, you're on the roster, you're going by ship. I said, oh no. Anyway, I'm just about ready to get on the bus to get on ship. A guy comes and grabs me, he says, you got 15 minutes to change clothes, you're flying. I could have kissed the guy. But anyway, here I'd had my Class A uniform, back then it was khakis, and I'd wadded them all back up and put them in my duffel bag, so I had to dig all them out, so I really looked sharp in this wrinkled outfit, but I flew to Korea, which was great. You know, it was about, I think, like 20 hours flight time, which otherwise is like 12 days on a ship.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excruciating.
Yeah, and miserable because you're stacked 4 high and it's a troop ship. You know, I mean, there's nothing there to do. They have you up sweeping the deck every day, and how can you get dirty out in the middle of the ocean? I never have understood that. But they'd wash the deck down every day, and you'd have to move from this side to that side. Nothing to do, you know. But anyway, I got to Korea, and I used to be in A Company ASA. I went to B Company ASA, which was in 7th Division. A Company was in 1st Cav. So I stayed there a year. I come back to the States. I got married to my first wife. I've been married twice. And I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. I helped train doctors during the Vietnam War. What was really funny is I was telling the kids at Sunday school class that I helped train doctors at Fort Sam Houston. And they said, you're a doctor? I said, no, I train doctors. Well, how do you train doctors if you're not a doctor? I said, well, doctors learn things besides, you know, military procedure. They learned how to shoot weapons. They learned how to read a map. They learned infiltration and escape and evasion. I said, and that's what I taught him. I'm not a doctor by no means.
Right.
I stayed there like about 2.5 years, went back to Korea.
Okay.
Then I was in artillery. So I was in, fact, what was it, the 79th Field Artillery. And I'll never forget, because I was we had an old beat up building that was our maintenance section. You didn't have nothing fancy over there at all. All the equipment, I deadlined all of it, because I was a maintenance sergeant at that time.
Okay.
And one day I'm sitting in my office, and all of a sudden I hear this helicopter coming in, here lands right in front of the maintenance section, and a general gets out. And of course, I go, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. The general wanted to know why all my equipment was deadlined. I said, well, somebody was faking the records before just to keep people happy. I said, so he says, show me what's wrong. We went out, and this general crawled underneath vehicles with me, and I showed him what was wrong. He says, you will be getting the equipment to get it fixed. So anyway, the next day a colonel shows up and says, what do you need? And it wasn't long. I got all that equipment fixed. So the records were straight. A lot of times in the military, especially if you're in the maintenance section, you know, every piece of equipment is supposed to be running order. Right. But there's things that deadline it. Well, sometimes they deadline things for things that it'll still operate, but probably not safely. But to make your records look good, you fib a little bit.
Right.
I never did that. It was either done right or not done. Anyway, I got everything running. I passed all inspections. Then they said, well, we're going to transfer you up to headquarters since you did such a good job here. I thought it was time to relax, you know. So I get to headquarters, same thing. I deadline a bunch of equipment, get it all running. That was great. Now it's time to relax. Nope. Now you're going to Division Artillery, which now I'm in charge of 3 battalions, maintenance-wise. Yeah. Anyway, I did that for...
No relaxing
I never did get
there,
to relax, no. So I did that. I stayed there just for the tour, the 13 months, and then I left there, and I went to Germany. So I get to Germany, and I said, well, is my family able to come over? Nope, you didn't. You need to come from Vietnam. That's a hardship tour. I said, what do you think Korea is? It's a 13-month hardship tour. They said, well, we'll see what we can do. Well, I was there about 6-7 months, and I decided I'm getting out of the Army. I've had enough of this. Colonel calls me in. He says, you can't leave. He says, you gotta re-enlist. I said, nope, you didn't bring my. We'll have your family here in 60 days. I said, I've heard this story before. Mm-hmm. So I got out. I come back to the States. Worked for my dad with a roofing company, but I joined the Army Reserves. And of course, that's weekend, you know,
right,
once a month, and then 2 weeks in the summer. I stayed there, what, about 16 years, 17 years. I retired as the first sergeant. Otherwise, now I'm retired.
Awesome.
I retired at 63. I didn't want to retire, but I've had both hips replaced, had my knee replaced twice. I got a screw in my arm, and I got a plate in my back. And my wife keeps telling me I got a loose screw up here, but I don't know how true that is yet. But I just go along with it, because I always get the last word in. I go, yes, dear.
Perfect.
But anyway.
Perfect words. Perfect last words.
You know, actually, that's my life story. I turned 82. I feel good. I praise the Lord every day for every day I have. You know, I have, my first wife passed away, and I am remarried. Got a couple daughters. In fact, my one daughter's an art teacher here in school, and she loves it. And like I say, life is good. Life is good.
Tell me about, well, you've lived in a couple foreign countries.
Yeah.
Tell me what that's like as opposed to living here in the United States.
Well, I'll tell you, our poor people are rich compared to the poor people in Korea. I mean, you'll take a little shack that's 10 by 10, and there'll be 12 people sleeping in there. They have a little bitty addition to it, which is probably 4 by 10 feet, where they'll cook and do things like that. The rice paddies, they usually have a corner of the rice paddy. That's where all the waste goes for fertilizer, and I mean human waste, all kind. It's just really a different country. Now, Korea, I went back to Korea with the reserves.
Oh,
and
you
I
did?
thought, boy,
okay.
This is going to be be something else. I was the first sergeant then.
Right.
And Korea has changed a lot. You never could eat downtown. I mean, it was just very unsanitary. Although GIs would sneak off and do it anyway, you know. But I went back. It's really getting modernized. Really modern. I mean, really a beautiful country. That's probably the worst I've seen of the way people really live. How you can live in a little 10 by 10 area, even one person, you know, and they're cold in the winter, they're hot in the summer, and you know, just it's really hard to describe unless you've actually seen it. But our poor people in the United States are rich. I mean, hopefully we take care of people. I have no grudges against anybody. I try to treat everybody like I like to be treated, with respect and love, and that's it. You know, so, but I do think everybody should, not, well, maybe not females, but everybody should serve some time in the military just so they could see that, you know. And I love my country. If I wasn't so old, I'd go back, you know. But I'm lucky to walk around the block now. I can't run that mile no more.
What do you, we talked, you said in the time that you were gone from Korea and then came back, things have modernized. Let's talk about what's happened here in the United States in your lifetime. What's the biggest change that you've seen?
Well, I don't want to get into politics because I've got a lot of friends.
That's a good subject to avoid.
I've got a lot of friends that are Trump fans, and I'll let everybody know I'm not a Trump fan, so we'll just let it go with that.
Okay.
But, you know, it's really hard to say. I mean, the country has grown so much, and politics have got, it used to be they were supposed to be working for us. Now I think they work for themselves, no matter whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent. I think they're all for themselves. So I think we need to get together and work together. Any other changes in the United States, I really can't say. I mean, there's been so many of them.
Right.
They're 82 years old. I mean, you go from stagecoaches to modern cars, you know. What else can there be, you know? That's a tough question.
Yeah. Well, and there have been, you know, too many to mention, I'm sure. You know, societal, economic, all of that.
Yeah.
What has sustained you in your life when we all have hardship? What sustains you?
I think my church, to tell you the truth. I believe in God. I wake up every morning, I said, thank you, God, for another day. And I've been through a lot of stuff. I mean, I figured I'd never reach past 50. I mean, I've been shot at, they missed, you know, which is great. So I think the man upstairs is taking care of me. And I got a beautiful wife. That's one of my ambitions right there, is my wife. She's always there for me, whatever I need, you know. It's another hard question, but, you know.
Well, what do you do during the day? I'm sorry,
I putz around. You know, I make letters out of metal, and I just do odd stuff, you know. And of course, I have coffee with the guys. I mean, you get all the facts there, and
Absolutely.
It's all truth, because they know.
They know what's going on. You bet.
Otherwise, you know, I putz around. Like I say, I make things. I'll take a piece of wood and carve out an A, and then I'll cover it with old rusty metal, things like that. And I've made different things in my house, you know, like a big angel, you know, and covered all with copper. I make copper stars, you know, just putz around. And of course, I hate to say this, and I don't want it to get too far, but I do the dishes once in a while and vacuum the floor. But if anybody asks me that, I'm going to tell them they're lying, because I don't want that to get out.
Well, I think that might be another topic, the secret to a happy marriage.
Oh, yes, yes. Like I say, I always get the last word in. Yes, dear.
Talk about let's go back a little bit, your family of origin. When you were growing up, what did your dad did the roofing? Or I'm sorry.
Yes, well, actually, my uncle owned it. And
okay.
And then when my dad met my mother in Georgia, he got out of the service, and he ran a painting company down there, very successful, because that was right after the war, and everybody was building houses, and he had a painting contract where just I had all these people working for him. And then my uncle called from Wilmer, and he was opening up a roofing company. So my dad decided to come up and be with his family because my grandparents lived in Fulda on a farm.
Okay.
So he came up here, and we lived in Wilmer for quite a while, and then my uncle decided to expand, so he opened up a roofing company here, one in Morris, one in Sioux Falls, and one in Hutchinson.
Oh, wow.
So we expanded quite a bit. So that's how we moved to Worthington. Well, they moved to Worthington while I was in the service.
Okay.
So then I got out and I came to Worthington. And like I say, I went back in the Army up and down, and I just came back. I love Worthington. I think it's a nice town. You know, it's always treated me good, so I can't say too much about that.
It's changed
Yeah.
since you've lived here.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's just, we have a lot of taco places to eat tacos. I love tacos.
I do too.
Uptown it used to be real busy, but it's kind of moved out, you know, kind of on Oxford Street. And of course, got a new courthouse, and they're starting to build a lot out on the other side of the interstate. Mm-hmm. So Worthington's expanding, and that's great. That's really great. You know, my grandparents in Georgia, my grandfather down in Georgia, he died at a very young age. I was in Korea when he passed away at like 58 or so. He was like 350 pounds, loved wrestling. My grandmother was a little bitty lady, about 98 pounds. Strictly a Southern person. Always fixed cornbread and biscuits for every meal. And on birthdays, she always made a coconut cake. In
Yum.
fact, on my birthday this time, I said, boy, it'd be nice to have a coconut cake. My daughters went to Walmart, and they had Peppermint Ridge coconut cakes, and they brought me a coconut cake. Not as good as my grandma's, I can remember, but that was 80-something years ago, and I remember that. But my outlaws in Georgia, it was a good thing we moved, because most of my cousins down there were in prison because they were moonshiners.
Wow.
And you know, like I say, the Lord was looking out for me because I moved to Minnesota. Otherwise, you kind of go with the relatives, you know.
You may have been a moonshiner. Who knows,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, could have made the best in the world. Who knows? But we went down there one year, and I asked my grandmother was still alive, and she said she was going to get some moonshine. I said, where are you getting that from? She said, well, from her cousins. I said, oh, could I get some? She said, sure. I said, what do you need moonshine for, Grandma? She says, well, you use it for if you get a cold or something.
Well, of course, medicinal purposes.
So anyway, for some reason the cousins never came up, but I didn't get my moonshine at that time. So, but later on, my dad went down there, and he brought back a gallon of moonshine. So now this was, I don't know how many years ago. I became a first sergeant, and I thought, well, we'll drink this moonshine for my promotion. You always got to have a beer or so. Well, after all these years, there's still this much in the jar. It sits in my garage. It's very strong stuff.
Is it powerful stuff?
It's very powerful stuff. So.
It could make the whole town happy, maybe?
Well, quite a few people, you know. The funny thing about it, it's so pure that if you pour it in a styrofoam cup, it'll eat the styrofoam cup, eat the bottom right out. You got to drink it quick. Of course, I don't know what that styrofoam that's melting does to your stomach, but...
Oh, imagine what it does to your stomach. Wow.
It really, you know, my grandmother also chewed snuff. You can imagine that, you know.
Well, she was a true Southerner.
Yeah, she was a true Southerner. She was a true Southerner, but she always had a jar beside her chair, and she'd spit in it, you know, very discreet about it. But
well, certainly.
And my grandfather, he loved wrestling. He was a wrestling fan. Now you go to his house, that's back when the little screen was round, you know.
Uh-huh.
And the Omni in Atlanta, that's where wrestling actually started.
Really?
Pro wrestling. So I remember, boy, if you go with if wrestling was on, you just watched wrestling. But one time we came down from Minnesota, and we were pretty little, and he took us to the Omni. We were in the front row, and we're sitting there, and these wrestlers are going to it, and they're beating each other up, and the guy threw the one guy out, and the guy picks up a chair, and I mean, we're right there, you know, throws the chair inside, and the guy jumps over the ring, and the guy's beating him with the chair, and blood's just pouring down his head.
Lord.
My grandfather, he reached over and looked at my dad, he says, see, Fritz, I told you it was real. And I'll never forget that. I was probably 11, 12 years old at that time. I told you it was real. And my dad said, yes, Harvey, it's real. It's real. He was gonna say. But anyway, You know, that's what I kind of remember about it, because then we would come back home, you know, to Wilmer. And of course, Wilmer, I was at school, and the lake was our adventure. We'd run around the lake all the time, and we'd go swimming in the lake, Wilmer Lake, which was very dirty at that time. And in the wintertime, we'd go ice skating and all the things kids do, you know. Never really get in any trouble, but just have fun. So
Good old-fashioned fun.
just good old-fashioned fun. That's when you didn't have all the cell phones and the TVs. I mean, we didn't get a TV until I was probably in 10th grade or so. In fact, whenever the $64,000 question came out, that's about the time we got a little TV. It used to be a pleasure to go over and babysit my cousins because they had a TV, and my aunt always had cookies and stuff, pop. We never really got a lot of that, but that was okay too.
Yeah.
So.
What else do you need?
Yeah.
TV and snacks, right?
Yeah, that's it. And the kids were easy, baby. They just go to bed, and you'd sit there and watch TV, and black and white, you know. There was no, that was color, black and white.
Right, that's
That
right,
was
two
it.
colors.
Yeah. So,
You and I met recently at the Veterans Day programs,
Yes.
and you were honored here
Oh, yeah, what a
at the high
pleasure.
school. Talk about that day.
I tell you, it just got my heart. For me to be honored, I'll probably start getting teared up here, but there are so many veterans out there that need to be honored. I'm just one guy. I just did my job, but to be honored by a whole school, it still touches my heart. I just don't know how they picked me. Maybe because of my daughter, and you know, I know the principal real well. I always give him a bad time about the Vikings, but anyway, what a beautiful program. I mean, it was put on so well. You know, I can't say enough good stuff about it. The girls that interviewed me, what some sweethearts, really nice young ladies. I thought it was kind of funny when I read it the first time. I told them that I had monitored North Korea. Well, when they wrote it out, it said Bill was in North Korea as a, you know, well, my eyes aren't right, and I'm not, you know, I wouldn't have stayed there very long, so I had to change it. But I can understand where you get that. But it was just a pleasure, you know, and I hope everybody realizes that that was an honor.
Well, it was very well deserved.
It was an honor.
Very well deserved.
There's a lot of people out there that deserve that honor, and I wish we could celebrate every veteran. But I had a lot of good friends that passed away that, you know, were veterans, and to honor them also, you know.
A lot of
So,
people paid
yeah.
the ultimate price
Yes,
for
they
what we
did.
have here
Yes,
now.
they did.
You were talking about the high school and the kids that interviewed you, and the program that we put on. What advice? How do you see children or kids or students? Are they a lot different, or are people basically the same?
I think the knowledge is so much more because of the cell phone thing. But I think they need to put those cell phones up and start communicating with people. Learn your friends. Don't just sit there with a phone. I mean, I've been in restaurants where people come in and order, and then they're all on their phones. I like to talk, as you could probably tell. I think the kids need to find out what life is about. You know, not just go to the phone and look up and see what it is, and communicate with each other and their teachers. If you got a question, ask the question. Don't go to your phone right away, because that probably is not the real answer. And I don't know what the problem is here in school. I mean, or what the deal is here in school, if they can have their phones or what. But I think they should be put away for 8 hours, and then you can bring them out. There's got to be more communication and more friendship, I think, if that makes sense.
It does, most definitely. And, you know, I think of even myself and my friends, we've talked about it too. We're kind of guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
So I do agree. I do agree. What other advice or lessons have you learned along the way?
You work hard, you do your job, you treat everybody with respect and love, and life will be good. That, you know, just feel that. Like I say, I might not like somebody. If I don't get in their face, and I just stay away from those people. You know, and that, my wife always said, you know, I said, well, so-and-so, he's kind of a jerk. My wife said, he is one of God's children, and that is true. But I don't have to associate with him. But,
well, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to say about moving forward in your life, in your 82 years and beyond?
I would like to go traveling a little bit. The only state I haven't been in is Oregon. And
Beautiful.
We were going to go out there because we had a grandson that was in the Navy, and we were going to go out there and see him. Well, then COVID hit, so we haven't got out there. But that's on my bucket list. I also want to go down and go to Galveston. I've been all over Texas, but I've never been to Galveston. And that island, I think, is like 20 miles long and like a mile wide. I think it'd just be fun. Plus, there's a program on TV where they rebuild houses and stuff. It looks like a very old part of Texas. And I'd like to get there and maybe get over to Atlanta. And there's one cousin I got left that I can identify.
Moonshine?
I'd like to see. No moonshine. No moonshine. But my last aunt down there, she passed away a while ago. And she got married when she was 14 and lived with her husband for 74 years. Can you imagine getting married at 14 years old?
I cannot.
You know?
Or being married for 74 years. That's
Yeah.
a long darn time.
Yeah, he was 6 years older than she was. So she was 14 and he was 21 or 20, 19 or so.
Which wasn't probably unusual in the South
Right.
at that time.
Of course, at that time, at that age, they had learned a lot of stuff. I mean, you know, how to cook and how to do all this stuff. Nowadays, I don't know if the teenagers know how to cook yet because they go to McDonald's you know, or Burger King. That's where I have my coffee anyway. But I don't know. Like I say, life has been good to me. You always wonder. I mean, there's some places you've been and things you've done. And would you do them all over again? Probably. You know, it just hopefully there's things you could change. You know, in Korea we used to go on stakeouts, and you go out along the rice paddies, and you go out and you take your platoon or your squad and stake them out about every 10 meters, and you sit there for 2 hours, and you don't move, you don't smoke, you don't move. The last guy would be me and my radio man, and in 2 hours then you would leave, and you pick your guys up, you know. Of course, the lieutenant, he's back about 2 miles, sitting in a Jeep somewhere. But I don't know, you've ever been out in a wheat field and see how the wheat moves, you know? Well, you're sitting behind a rice bed, a little dike with rice paddy, and all of a sudden that rice moves, and it's just the wind. But, you know, you just wonder, could this be it? I don't think I was ever afraid until after the fact. You know, then you think about it. While you're there, you're busy
staying
alive.
alive.
You got a job to do, and you're going to do it.
Right.
You need to get back and go, well, I wonder what happened. The guy could have crawled up and thrown a grenade or did whatever. But that, you know, as far as fear, I don't think I've really ever been afraid. You know, I did a lot of crazy stuff, but I don't think I could tell it on the communication.
Some things are best left unsaid,
Yes.
right?
Well, you know, it used to be I could set a 40-foot ladder up and just crawl to the top. Now I'm 82, I put up the 2-foot step stool, and this first step is high enough for me. I don't need to go any higher than that. So, but, no, I love my country. I love Worthington. What can I say? Yeah.
Well, I can say thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I'm hoping your 82 years turn to 83 on January 9th,
Thank you.
2026.
Thank you. Me and Richard Nixon, remember? I did not tell you.
January 9th. Was that his birthday?
Yep.
I did not know that.
In fact, it was kind of funny. I went and had coffee, and a young man had come in. It was on Saturday, and Lisa, who's the manager, she says, hey, it's your birthday today. And he goes, well, no. He says, that was the other day. So I happened to walk up. I said, well, when's your birthday? He says, January 9th. I says, well, so is mine. I said, maybe we should buy each other a cup of coffee and celebrate, which is kind of neat.
Right.
And he's in 10th grade here at school. So,
Oh, sure.
You know, I always ask them when these young kids work, I says, are you in high school? And they go, yeah. And I says, do you take art? And some of them say yes, some of them say no. I said, do you know Miss Knigge? Yes. I said, well, what kind of teacher is she? Oh, she's a nice guy. I said, you can tell I'm her dad. Really? You can tell me the truth, you know. So anyway. My daughter, I think, gets mad when I do that, but that's okay, because some of the kids will come back and say, I talked to your dad yesterday.
Well, you're here and helped her quite a bit in the
Yes.
high school.
And I don't mind I don't want her to know that, but I don't mind helping at all. And if she's got a problem with something, she'll call me up and, you know, I can say, well, try this or try that, you know, so. But I'm going to stop over and see her when I leave here, so.
Yeah, never stop being a parent, do you?
No, never do. Never do. And that's okay, too. 'Cause we just had Christmas here this last Saturday because my daughter brought the kids down, so we just had Christmas. And yeah, what a lot of fun, you know, to have the grandkids and your daughter's there. And it was a good day, a very good day.
Being surrounded by loved ones.
Yes, that is true. And the sad thing is, you know, you buy these kids all these fancy presents. Like I say, I have coffee at Burger King. And the lady there says, you got a couple grandkids, here's a watch and a little makeup deal and a couple little cars. So all the presents my wife and bought them and all that, what did they play with? The little watch and compact and the 2 little cars that I put in their stocking. They didn't play with any of the other stuff. I said, boy, that was really a cheap Christmas present. We had only known.
Right. Well, it's the little things, isn't
Yep,
it?
that is right. That is right. It's the
Even
little
in
things
life.
Yep.
It's
How
the
true
little
that
things.
is. How true that is.
Well, thank you so much, Bill.
You're welcome.